This is Leona Graham and I am with Safi Sprocket. Hi.
Hi.
You are a YouTuber.
Yes.
So what's your following like? Got a lot of people following?
Quite a lot. A lot of people, tend to be either older bikers who want to, relive their younger days, and also a lot of younger female riders as well.
Okay, fantastic. Now I'm going to dive straight in and ask you about this solo tour that you've been on. What is this all about?
So I got my motorcycle license. It was 25 months ago. I went for direct access, and as soon as I got my license, I knew that I wanted to travel. So I started doing smaller tours around the UK, and I've always done them by myself. And then when I started to reach the 12-month mark, I really wanted to do something bigger, and I really wanted to do something that wasn't necessarily about myself. And so I started to have a look around various charities that I might be able to utilize what I was already doing to kind of make a nicer impact on the community that I was living in. And so I reached out to the Northwest Air Ambulance, and I said, would you be interested in, working with me and I'll see if I can help do something for you guys. And eventually we had a chat. I went to talk to them, and I mentioned that I wanted to do a big tour. It was going to be the biggest one yet. Because a lot of the time been small trips, like weekend trips. And so I did a 360 loop in Europe. And the idea was that if you were to do a bird's eye view, it would look like a helicopter blade going around on the map.
Wow, so you did all that on your own?
Yes.
As a relatively new biker.
Yeah.
What bike did you use?
An SV650. So it's the same bike that I learned to ride on.
Yes.
I bought it directly from the bike school. So it was already been trashed and dropped when I bought it. So I got a really good deal. I got it really cheap.
I bet you did, yeah. And where do you stay when you do this kind of thing?
So I use a tent. I have a lone rider tent.
So you're on a motorbike and you're sleeping in a tent.
Yeah.
This is impressive. So you've gone from 0 to this.
Yeah,
in a short
not
space
to
of time.
100.
What made you start going right back to the beginning? What made you start? Did you know that it would take over your life like this?
Oh, no, absolutely not. I have a career in law.
You have a
career in law.
In law?
And law. And I used to work for a law firm. And
my mind is blown again.
My boss at the time was a biker.
Yeah.
And he loved to race. He was an ex-racer. And one day he came in with a broken foot after crashing. And I thought it was the coolest thing in the world. And I ended up doing my CBT, and I ended up doing my direct access. And then from then on in, I just kind of just went, and it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then before I know it, there was a lot of people that were enjoying the journey with me.
What is direct access for anybody who's not sure about this?
So for a lot of people, if you're over the age of 23 or 21, I can't quite remember. I was 25 when I did mine. Okay. But when you go to do your license for the first time, first you do your CBT, which is kind of like to get your learner license so you can ride around with L plates and up to a 125cc bike. At that point, depending on your age, you can then do multiple different types of licenses, and that would cap the type of machine that you can use. But if you're over a certain age, you can do something called direct access, which is you can do your full bike license straight through, and then you have no restrictions whatsoever. So when I was in my late 20s, obviously, I did direct access. It's straight through. It took me 4 times to do my test. I failed 4 times in a row. One of them, I forgot that I had a test.
You just didn't turn up?
I didn't turn up. Well, what happened was I was on my way to work, so I'd forgot that I'd booked work off that day. My alarm went off on the way to work, and I remembered I was supposed to be on the opposite side of the city. I rushed home. I couldn't find my bike boots. I didn't make it in time, so I failed. But it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the fun.
It is part of the journey.
So.
What would you say to women who are reluctant to start out?
Start small. I think if I'd gone... Because for me, I think I did a lot of smaller trips before I, launched into a big trip. But also, I think the biggest thing about starting in biking is that I think for women, there's a lot of pressure for us in society to be quite perfect. And I think especially when you're in school, you're raised to kind of think that making mistakes is a bad thing. You should always remember your homework. You should always be on time. And you're almost, it's expected. I think in school, from my experience, a boy could show up late and it'd be like, oh, they're being a boy. And, if you were a girl, it'd be an instant detention. And I think that's left women with a lot of anxiety about not being perfect at all times. And I think when it comes to biking, unfortunately, nobody is born with the skill to motorbike. You just have to take it one step at a time. And you have to accept the fact that you are going to fail, you are going to fall. But also remember that you want to, because you'll learn more from failing and making mistakes than you will ever do from being perfect straight off the bat.
Right, yeah.
So
that's really good advice, and hopefully we can take that on board and anybody watching who might want to start in biking. Why have you chosen this bike to sit on for our interview?
So I've never sat on this bike, and I keep seeing this one online because obviously it's the touring bike, isn't it? It's the one with the reputation. And I'll be honest, I sat on it just because I want to have a little cheeky see how big it is, and it's massive.
It's massive, isn't it?
It's so huge, but it's really cool. I do want to move into a touring bike eventually. It's one of the biggest feedback I get on the channel at the moment is, why am I...
Well, yeah. Why are you touring on a non-touring bike?
Well, it's the bike that I learned to ride on.
Yeah.
And also, I'm a big believer in things aren't going to be perfect straight off the bat. And at the time, that was the bike that I could afford. And ultimately, if you get the bike that you can afford to begin with and you just keep traveling, eventually you will progress onto new things and you will progress onto bigger bikes. And it is going to be the case that, I will be looking at a new bike in the future. Probably not the immediate future as I would like because, people have bills and things.
Yes.
But ultimately, I'm touring on a street bike because ultimately that's the thing that I could tour on, and that was the thing that allowed me to tour. And I think it was more important for me to keep going than it would be to buy something that I couldn't afford to run.
Okay, well, that's fair enough. Well, thank you. Lovely to meet you, Safi.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.